Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk und ich habe wieder ein Interview, sehen Sie natürlich schon auf der Aufmachung her und bei mir ist Ted Konyi, er ist CEO von Smartcool System, ist an der Börse notiert in Vancouver unter SSC oder in Deutschland unter der WKN Anton 0 Bertha 7 Gustav J. Also Anton 0 Bertha 7 Gustav J. Und warum ich mit ihm das Interview mache, wird er uns selber erklären, weil er soll seine Firma natürlich vorstellen. Ted, thank you to have time. You're now sitting in London. Normally you are based in Vancouver. Yeah, maybe you can give us a really small introduction to your company. What your company do?
Yes. Thanks very much, Joe. I appreciate being on this interview. In a nutshell, Smartcool has a proprietary software algorithm that optimizes compressors, creates more efficiency for compressors, specifically compressors used in the refrigeration cycle. So these are commercial refrigeration, for air conditioning systems, and for heat pumps, which are basically the same as reverse cycle air conditioning.
But this is on software based.
Yes. So we have the software that is now in its 27th version since we first started the company. And this software is on a little processing unit that we have manufactured. And the processing unit is then retrofitted to the control systems for these refrigeration units, air conditioning systems, and heat pumps.
So that means you can use it more on the industrial side and not on the private side.
Yes, so certainly for commercial refrigeration, that's true. We've done quite a number of residential air conditioning systems in the United States, particularly in Florida, where they have a tremendous amount of cooling days, where it's warm enough that they need air conditioning virtually the whole year round. And these air conditioning systems for the larger houses in particular. I'll hint at the fact that we are looking to develop from our software, proprietary software, a unit specifically for residential applications. Mm-hmm. In other words, a slimmed down unit from the commercial version. All the savings we've seen so far in residential would merit installation across all of the southern United States.
So for the private, it means that I put between the plug-in in this little thing. So and then I get this advantage of it. From which side of advantage we talk? From which numbers we talk? What I can save? So
it can be very significant, but the range is quite large, and the range is large only because of the size of the systems. So as an example, at the very largest systems, and I'm going to give you an example of one of the very largest systems that were installed on, if you're familiar at all with Dubai and the real estate development, the Palms. Mm-hmm. So this is this big development in the Persian Gulf. It has a central cooling facility. So it's not individual cooling for all of the residences on the Palms or all of the hotels and so on. This is one big cooling plant, 80,000 tons of cooling. Now, that might not mean anything to your viewers, but if a normal American household has 5 tons of cooling, this is 80,000 tons of cooling, which supplies chilled water through piping system through all of the Palms. So this was installed about 7 or 8 years ago. Our system was retrofitted to this cooling plant. We got about 6% savings, but you can imagine 6% on 80,000 tons is a lot of kilowatt hours of savings. So that's the low end of the spectrum.
Yeah, but it's always compare how much I must invest. So what is the payback time what I get? So this is the important thing.
Very, very exactly right. The most important thing, I never talk really about percentages. Everybody wants to hear percentages, but in fact, it's about payback period because the economics are what drives this business. Mm-hmm. And so our payback period runs anywhere from as little as 1 year mm-hmm. to typically not much longer than 3 years. Mm-hmm. But payback, as you can imagine, Joe, it's all based on utility rates. So the higher the utility rate and the higher the consumption, so the bigger the machine, the quicker the payback period. The lower the utility rate, the smaller the machine, the longer the payback period. It's one of the reasons, quite frankly, that we're now going to try and enter into the German marketplace with our product, because utility rates in Germany are very high relative to the rest of the world. And even though air conditioning isn't prominent there, the use of heat pumps, which provides both cooling in the summer and heating in the winter, is becoming very, very prominent.
So this is your main focus in Germany, the heat pumps. To go over this, and do you go this for what is your typical client, what you're looking for?
So it's not only heat pumps, of course, it's also commercial refrigeration. But the typical client, the number of verticals that we have applicability for is very, very large. So you might go anything from a retail shop, whether it's a clothing store or shoe store or something like this. A bigger user would be a grocery store chain, where a grocery store chain has both refrigeration requirements as well as heating and cooling requirements for the air spaces. Things like data centers, which when you think about data centers, switching stations for the cell phone companies. Data centers, of course, data centers are huge these days with the amount of computing that goes on in the cloud. So this is another low-hanging fruit for us. We've already done 2 major installations with Orange, the big cell phone company. One switching station in Poland, one switching station in Hungary. So we have great applicability for switching stations or data centers, because data centers are basically big fridges. They've got all this equipment that gets hot and they have to keep it cool. So we have application there. We have application in office buildings where there's heating and cooling requirement. The most recent installation that we did was for a big utility company in the UK. It was our 5th building that we've done for them. They have something like 26 buildings that we're working towards getting them all done. And this latest building had Mitsubishi heat pumps. We got 60% reduction.
Wow.
And this is already extremely efficient equipment, and we got a further 60% reduction on this system. And the payback period was way under 2 years, almost down to a year payback period.
What is the way to make your money? Is it that you sell them the unit, or you get something back from the savings what you generate? How is your revenue model?
So currently, the company has been operating on a revenue model where it's a one-time sale. We're just starting to adopt a payment program in order to make sales happen faster, because sometimes capital budgets are constraints for companies. Even the biggest of companies seem to not have enough money to implement these programs, regardless of the payback period. So we're already starting to see some benefit from this new approach. Ultimately, what we're working towards is to have a product that we can put in on a software as a service basis. And what that requires is communication capability. So about 1.5 years ago, when I first took CEO office, I entered into a relationship with a company called Connected Holdings to take our product to that next level, where it becomes essentially an IoT product.
So that's mean the old revenue model was to sell this unit to the people, and it was a done deal, and you see then a positive impact, or you see when the client coming back and do this for the next building, it looks like that they are happy with the product, and it's done. So your new model is more revenue driven model. That's mean you give them the tool for free and get them something from the consumption, or and for the savings what you create. Is this
right?
Yeah.
You're right. The difficulty with the model, and I'm very much all about recurring revenue. My background is all about recurring revenue, and I like that kind of model. The problem with the model in this instance is we impact a small portion of the overall energy requirement of these companies. So again, if you think about a data center as an example, a data center has essentially a lot of computers sitting in a room churning through and communicating data, both incoming and outgoing. So a big expense for that data center is the energy that's used to run all those computers.
Mm-hmm.
The other big expense is, in fact, the air conditioning required to keep those computers cool,
mm-hmm.
right, and keep them running properly.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got lights and you've got a number of other things. But typically, what happens in that kind of situation is you've got one energy bill which shows all of the energy, but it's not broken down into how much is for air conditioning, how much is for the computers, how much is for the lights, et cetera, et cetera. So the difficulty with a recurring revenue model or a SaaS model is identifying the savings that you're creating, because there's so many other parameters, there's so many other users of that energy that's coming into the building. And to date, there's been very little device level, we call metering, mm-hmm. right? It's building metering or maybe an office metering, but it's not device level metering. We've in fact, at one of our large clients in the UK, we were introduced to a company that we are now a value-added reseller for that is a metering solution that does provide device-level metering. It's a very elegant, simple, relatively inexpensive solution that we're now deploying on a regular basis in order to, one, clarify for the customer what their consumption was on those refrigeration units or the HVAC units before Smartcool, and then what it is after Smartcool.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody wants to know, and until you've got device level metering, it's very difficult because there are, like I say, so many other parameters
mm-hmm.
That can impact on it. This is going to allow us to move to that software as a service model, because we now will have visibility to the actual consumption on those devices.
How much revenue you make last year or the first 6 months?
So last year was unfortunately our lowest year. The company has been around for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And initially there was a lot of excitement when we undertook this proprietary software 14 years ago. I originally founded the company, but wasn't involved in the day-to-day management until about 2 years ago. So unfortunately, we grew very quickly to maybe 4.5 million from a zero start or near zero start in annual sales, because we ended up with some big contracts, particularly in the UK with companies like Tesco and Sainsbury's, two big grocery store mm-hmm. companies. And then, unfortunately, management didn't leverage those relationships into more sales. And so, to your point of having one-time sales, when the contracts ended, the sales dropped significantly. So last year, we hit a low mark, unfortunately, of $320,000 in revenue, mm-hmm. Lost about $1 million. So previous management had really started to cut back overheads and try and grow the business from a smaller base. What I think they were missing was adding new salespeople and trying to grow it from a sales perspective. However, I don't want to blame old management entirely, because in point of fact, as we talked earlier, economics drive this business. Mm-hmm. And in the last 10 years, utility rates have doubled pretty much around the world. The fact that utility rates have gone up makes our economics more favorable. And the other thing that's happened for us is no different than any other technology. These processing units that we put our software onto so that we can tie it into the existing control systems or retrofit to the existing control systems, these processing units have come down significantly in cost. I'm talking about a 5-fold reduction in cost. So the economic swing has been quite dramatic. Mm-hmm. So you've got this massive drop in our cost of goods, and you've got a rise in utility rates. So both of these are working in our favor to really go back and grow our business. So I see it as a bit of a rebirth. I mean, our most recent quarter was $261,000. Over $85,000 of the first quarter. The second quarter was $261,000. I'm expecting somewhere north of 300, maybe 350 for the third quarter. But really, what I see in the pipeline, in the funnel, the sales funnel, is more like 700,000 or 800,000 in the fourth quarter, and a run rate of probably 5 million for 2018. If you look at our second quarter numbers, you'll see our gross operating margin is over 90%.
Okay. And this 5 million in revenue, well, the thing is this also included that you maybe go also for this pay for use model?
I think that once we have an updated version of our current technology where we've got communication capability, we now will have all of the pieces in place. So we'll have visibility on consumption. We'll have the ability to turn on and off our system remotely, which then provides no different than the cell phone companies and the utilities have the right, if you don't pay them, to turn your system off.
Okay.
Right. And so, once we've installed our system and somebody stops paying us, we may not have access to their premises to pull that equipment out, and yet it may still be generating savings for them. Mm-hmm. So we needed some form of ability remotely to turn the system off. The actual cost of the equipment is relatively small, but if we lose our revenue stream, well, that's not a very good thing.
I think you done some private placement in the last few months or something.
Yes, well, in the last really 2 years, I've done what I call Band-Aid financings, really just enough to create enough capital to keep the business moving along and trying to add some additional sales staff. So yes, we did just close a $400,000 financing. That's covering our overheads and taking care of some of the new developments that we're doing. But we are also in the midst of doing a $5 million non-convertible debenture. It's got a small equity kicker as part of it, as a bit of a bonus for the investors. But really, this money, which is 8% debenture money, is for the purpose of going into this funded installation program, where the current plan is that we will self-finance installations for companies, particularly companies, of course, that have good credit ratings but don't have the capital. We'll finance their installation over a 3-year time frame, which means that with let's say a 2-year or less payback period, they're immediately going to be in positive cash flow by installing Smartcool equipment.
That's sounds interesting for the company that for to install the thing. Shareholder structure.
So shareholder structure, currently 177 million shares issued. There's an additional 78 million warrants outstanding, and about 20 million, a little over 20 million options outstanding. The warrants and the options are all priced at 5 cents a share, so they're all in the money at the moment. I've personally been involved with, I would say, 90% of the fundraising for the last 8 years. And so I know a lot of the large shareholders personally. They account for, on a fully diluted basis, which might be 250 million shares fully diluted, those people that I know closely probably account for 190 million of this 250 million shares. So it looks like it's a big sloppy share structure, but in fact it's almost, I would consider, closely held.
Okay. Do you think the share price is relatively low? You have a good move in the last 2-3 months, but it's relatively. Do you think that you maybe make a rollback or something, or you don't have anything in plan?
I don't have any plans at the moment, although we'll likely get one approved at the AGM. But having been in the public markets for 20 years, I have never seen a rollback that's really been very successful. I think that the stimulus might be, Joe, if there's a specific significant event that happens in the company, something that would really support a much larger market cap, and by virtue of that we would look to then bring the stock to a position where we would be attractive to investment funds and so on that typically have a minimum pricing criteria. That would be the primary reason for engaging in any kind of a rollback. I don't see one that's going to be significant, nothing like a 10 for 1 or a 20 or 50 for 1, nothing like this. We might get an approval at the AGM for maybe up to a 5 for 1 or something like that. But again, it would be left then to the management and the directors of the company to make a decision as to when and if to do that. There are some opportunities that we're looking at that might be very synergistic on a merger and acquisition basis, where similar synergistic energy efficiency products that could be sold into that same client base that we're now developing that would fit with what our product is, that might make some sense. And if so, then it's a case of, if you're going to issue shares for, let's say, an acquisition, you would then use that as a catalyst to maybe roll back the stock at that point in time.
No, I'm absolutely 100% with you. I agree that the rollback, in the end, the share price is not really moving. 3 months later, it's the same price as before, only the amount of shares is going dramatically down.
Yes.
I think we talk. I think we have all the major points. The people they are interested to find also on your website, that is www.smartcool.net. .net.
Yes.
There's a presentation there. I have prepared this for the meeting, but we don't use it, so the people can see it also on your website. Ted, thank you for your time. Maybe next time when I'm in Vancouver, we meet us in person, and hopefully good luck with all your meetings what you have also here in Europe. I'm really think this is really interesting product, especially I know some people also from the tech industry, the IT business, they have really cooling is a major issue there.
Yes, it is.
It is a really good point. Ja, meine Herren, das war jetzt ein Startinterview von Smartcooler. Bei mir war der CEO da, und um was geht es? Es geht um Einsparungen beim Energieverbrauch, und Sie haben sich halt konzentriert darauf dort, wo es Kompressoren gibt, das heißt vor allem bei Cool-Systemen und bei Wärmetauschersystemen, die ja in Europa auch und in Deutschland und Österreich sehr beliebt sind, auch für Heizung. Wärmetauscherheizungen sind sehr bekannt. Ich denke da an Luft-Luft-Wärmepumpe, Luft-Wasserpumpe und so weiter. Sie können zwischen 6 und 60% einsparen. Er hat 2, 3 Beispiele genannt. Die größte, was Sie jemals installiert haben, war auf der Palme in Dubai. Die haben eine einheitliche Cooling-System, das heißt eine große Einheit produziert für die ganzen Anlage dort die Kühleinheit. Und dort haben sie zwar nur 6% Ersparnis, aber 6% bei so einer großen Anlage ist verdammt viel Geld. Und in der Regel ist es so, die Payback-Time, also es geht weniger darum, wie viel die Einsparung in Prozent ist, sondern die Payback-Time. Und die Payback-Time ist zwischen 1 und 3 Jahren. Das ist ganz wichtig, weil genau das ist es, wo die Leute dann sagen, okay, wenn ich jetzt das Geld investiere, habe ich spätestens in 1, 2 oder 3 Jahren zurückverdient. Er überlegt, das Businessmodell, da haben wir ein bisschen diskutiert, auch zu ändern in so eine Art wir geben dieses Produkt for free und kassieren halt bei diesen Einsparungen, die du machst, was mit. Ist aber allerdings ein bisschen schwieriger, weil man nicht genau 100%ig sagen kann, wo die Einsparungen sind. Zum Beispiel bei einer großen EDV-Anlage, dann brauchen ja die Computer genauso einen Strom wie auch die Kühleinheiten, und das dann raufzubröseln, was sind die Einsparungen, wirklich ist nicht so einfach. Sie machen jetzt eine Kooperation mit einem anderen Unternehmen in England, die genau das machen kann, und das wird dieses Projekt auch eröffnen. Wir haben dann über die Aktionärstruktur gesprochen. Es sind 170 Millionen Aktien, soweit ich es richtig im Kopf habe, draußen. Die Aktie notiert um die, ich glaube 8 Cent war es gestern in Kanada. Sie machen jetzt dann, sie haben eine kleine Finanzierung gemacht, 400.000. Sie wollen aber jetzt eine non-dilutive Finanzierung, also nicht verwässerte Finanzierung machen von 5 Millionen. Die soll Ihnen genau diese Möglichkeit ermöglichen, dass Sie sozusagen das Produkt den Kunden zur Verfügung stellen und damit einen kontinuierlichen Revenue Stream zu machen. Weil momentan ist es so, dass Sie nur am Verkauf des Produktes was verdienen, also einmalig. Sie sind sehr stark in England mit den Einzelhandelsgesellschaften, Tesco und so weiter, was er vorher erwähnt hat. Da sind sie sehr gut vertreten. Und letztes Jahr war eigentlich ein schlechtestes Jahr, weil dort einige Kontrakte ausgelaufen sind. Und wie gesagt, wenn man nur einmalig das Produkt verkauft, hat man ein Problem, weil man ja permanent das Produkt verkaufen muss. Deswegen ist so ein Revenue-Sharing-Modell natürlich viel oder Einsparungsteilungsmodell viel interessanter, weil dann kann man kontinuierlich ein Revenue machen und das wird die Ergebnisse dann in Zukunft nach oben treiben. Er hat sich auch selber jetzt so ungefähr gesagt, im ersten Quartal, glaube ich, haben es 80.000 gemacht, im zweiten über 200.000 und er erwartet, glaube ich, 700.000 im vierten Quartal, also stark steigende Umsätze und, glaube ich, für nächstes Jahr generell 5 Millionen. Da geht schon in die richtige Richtung, das schaut schon ganz gut aus. Schauen wir mal, ich habe ja gesagt, wenn ich dann drüben bin in Vancouver, schaue ich mal bei ihm vorbei und schauen wir das Ganze an. Das wird ja bald so der Fall sein. Ja, das war ein Intro zu Smart Cooling System und die WKN ist A0 Bertha 7 Gustav J oder in Kanada SS Cäsar das ist an der you're on the TSX Venture? No, you're on the Venture.
TSX Venture, yes.
Yeah, thank you for the interview. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.